Hi everybody, welcome to this video called Starting Your 2026 CFA Level 1 Prep or Preparation. The first 14 days study plan. So this is in response to many questions I've been getting recently from people who have already signed up for the 2026, one of the 2026 CFA Level 1 exam sessions, and they're struggling to find a good place to start. Now, I'm going to say this right away, don't follow the order of the curriculum. I don't think, well, you could, and I'm sure some people will be fine with that, but I don't think it's a good way to arrange your studies. That is, start with the first volume, continue on to the second and to the third, because you fail to utilize many of the linkages that are contained in the curriculum, which allow you to study in a much smarter way. So this is my idea of what your first 14 days of studies should look like. I mean, if you find this helpful, please let me know. Please let me know in the comments. So, by all means, start by formatting your Texas Instruments BA2 Plus calculator. So many people do not do this, and I only found out how to properly use my calculator at level 2, how to make necessary changes to it when somebody showed me. This will make your level 1 life a lot easier. Now, I only use the Texas BA2 Plus calculator in my videos. That's the only one I really specialize in, but that's the one I would go for. If you haven't already bought your calculator, if you've got a Texas Instruments, well done. But format it first. There is a video on this playlist. The next one will show you how to do it. Once you've got your calculator formatted, this takes only a few minutes, right? Then start hitting and practicing time value of money problems. In the past, time value of money problems used to be a separate sort of bunch of questions on the exam. That's no longer really the case, but you still need to master time value of money issues, especially how to do them on the calculator, so as to be able to progress with other areas of the curriculum. And there's a whole bunch of films, once again included on this playlist, so that you can find them quite easily, which are absolutely free to watch on the Let Me Explain YouTube channel, which is, I guess, where you're watching this video, so they shouldn't be difficult to find. Now, why is this important? Because this is where you can make your, TVM, time value of money, is an area of your studies that kind of belongs within quantitative methods, but this allows you to make a direct jump to 3 other topic areas which are very important, and I love making these jumps. I'm not a believer at all in studying from one book and finishing it before moving on to something else. In many of the comments you'll find under my videos, people are asking me, is it okay to do this or that? And I always tell them, look, just jump to another topic. If you're feeling stuck somewhere, go and do something else. Relieve the tension, the pressure, by studying something you'll actually enjoy and you'll maybe find a lot easier, and then come back and do whatever was difficult for you. So this is where we make the first of those jumps, and the first is the first proposed area. Let's call this step number 3, is to go into fixed income. Because fixed income is very reliant, actually let me utilize the color blue here, fixed income is absolutely reliant on time value of money mastery. So there is learning module 6, it's called fixed income, I think bond valuation is the full name, and this is where you'll actually utilize the time value of money worksheet on your calculator to compute the price of a bond, to compute perhaps the coupon on a bond, given other inputs, to compute the yield on a bond, right? So brilliant stuff here. Then, why not head over to equity investments and once again practice using your freshly acquired time value of money skills to value some equity instruments. So this is going to be equity valuation. And the learning module is called Concepts. Well, it's equity valuation, concepts and basic tools. And funnily enough, this is I think the most important module, learning module within equity investments, but it comes at the very end in the last learning module of the entire equity investments volume. So it's right at the back, whereas I think you should study it first. It's brilliant. There's a lot of, simple mathematics here, utilizing your calculator. This is where we do the dividend discount model. This is where you get to learn about the Gordon growth model. Everything here is about discounting and time value of money, so something you should already know from practicing it on your calculator. And the, let's say the third thing you could do, and this is going to be my step number 5 in the 14-day sort of plan, is head over to corporate issuers. So what used to be called in the past corporate finance, and here do something called capital investments and capital allocation. This is learning module 5. So once again, not at the very beginning of it, of the relevant topic area, but very important. I think it should be at the beginning. This is where you'll get to compute things like the NPV of an investment project, compute the IRR, the internal rate of return on a project. Once again, utilizing very much the time value of money functionality of your calculator, but not the TVM worksheet necessarily, but more the cash flow worksheet, which is still extremely important. And you'll be using it time and time again in different areas of the curriculum. Then, what I would propose you do, and this is going to be my step number 6, is take a look at financial statements analysis. It's a huge topic area, and I would advise you to watch a video I created called Balance Sheet and Cash Flow 101, in under 60 minutes. That's the catchy title of this film. If you haven't had much exposure to accounting, to financial statements, or you have but you need a bit of a summary, this is a good video to start off with, something that will allow you to practice these concepts in a sort of dynamic setting. Well, I suggest you watch it before you head into anything, you start doing anything other, any of the other more sort of specific topics within financial statements analysis. And then we head back into quantitative methods, which is where we started. But this time, doing something a lot more concrete. As my steps number 7 and step number 8, I want you to, within quantitative methods, or I advise you to study statistical measures of asset returns. This is learning module 3. This is absolutely critical. This is where you learn about the measures of central tendency, or location. So you'll be doing things like the mean, the mode, the median, but then also measures such as standard deviation. So measures of dispersion, like standard deviation. You'll learn about variance. You'll learn about kurtosis. You'll learn about skewness. Extremely important for your studies at level 1 and at level 2 in pretty much all the topics. And then learning module 8, well actually no, step number 8 is my suggestion that you next study a topic called portfolio mathematics. This is learning module 5 within quantitative methods. Right, and why are these two important? Well, because they open up the way for your studies of portfolio management, and the sooner you start learning portfolio management, I think, the better. So portfolio management is the thing that we skip over to next. Here I want you to study two things, two learning modules essentially: portfolio risk and return, part 1, where you learn about the about portfolio theory in the sort of more traditional way, where we are typically plotting expected return against measures of risk such as standard deviation of a portfolio's returns. And then, very importantly, as step number 10, we've got another module. So this is learning module number 1 within portfolio management for the 2026 CFA Level 1 exam. And then there is also portfolio risk and return, but this is called part 2, and this is learning module 2 within the same topic area. And this goes from a focus on standard deviation, so a measure of total risk, to focus on the capital asset pricing model, beta as an expression of that risk, what we call systematic risk. Very important to study this before you get more involved with other areas, because these things come up time and time again. Once you take these 10 steps, I believe, right, starting with mastery of the calculator and finishing with step number 10, I think you'll be on a much better trajectory for CFA Level 1 success, because you'll have mastered a lot of concepts that are dispersed across the curriculum, but they keep reappearing time and time again. These are some of the more difficult topics to study. They're quite intensive, and they require a lot of concentration, and they are quite challenging, but you'll be in a much better place having studied these. And if you can, I would advocate adding something more theoretical to the mix, so not so numerical. People think often that the CFA exam is all about number crunching, but when you take the exam, you'll find that most of the questions, I think more than 50% probably, will not require you to use the calculator. A lot of them are very theoretical. So to study something very theoretical, or more theoretical, why not have a look back at equity investments and fixed income, and here focus your attention on learning module 4 and learning module 1 respectively. This one is called Overview of Equity Securities, where we talk about the characteristics of shares, stocks, the differences between ordinary, preferred, etc. Pure theory, nothing numerical, but very important from the point of view of being able to score those relatively easy theoretical question points. And fixed income, similarly, there is a chapter or a learning module called Fixed Income Instrument Features, where we do something similar with bonds, basically. Most of you will already know this. Maybe there will be some details that you don't know yet, but these should be easy to study. If you manage to complete these 10 essential steps, and perhaps 11 and 12 on top, I mean, well done, congratulations. It's an intensive start to your CFA Level 1 studies, but well worth the effort.